This video is brought to you by DICERAGE. For all your battle reports, reviews, tutorials, and tactics, go to www.dicerage.com today. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bleep Up podcast, and I'm presenting to you today a new content piece for my channel. This is KHADOR Tactics. This video series is aimed towards the guys and girls who are just starting off their armies in KHADOR in the Warmachine universe. This whole video series is basically taking an in-depth look at Warcasters, solos, and units of the KHADOR faction available in Warmachine. So my first episode is for the Warcaster Epic Sorcerer. Now I use Epic Sorcerer a lot when I build my army lists, and also if you want to check out my battle reports on this channel, you find out that I've used her quite a bit in those battle reports. But enough said, let's read some of the fluff that defines this woman from the north. Sorcerer learned to live with loss at a young age. When her father died, she resolved herself to feel nothing and hid her pain behind service. When she witnessed Winterguard comrades killed and maimed, she placed all her grief behind her icy exterior. She slowly grew numb to the suffering around her, feeling little when her own troops died, or when the innocent stumbled into the path of war. Through the years, Sorcerer had several promotions and finally reached the rank of forward commander. She has commanded battalions of KHADORian troops into battle, and she is still compelled by her duty as much as her need to give way to the violence in her heart. Her fury was that of some goddess of frost and death. Sorcerer's patriotism still drives her to this day. She does not care why the motherland asks her to fight, only that she can find a few moments of peace in the clarity of action. So that is a little bit of background information on Sorcerer. If you want to read more about this, you can look in the KHADOR Army book. But let's get straight into this review, guys. We are going to look in depth at Epic Sorcerer. Epic Sorcerer is one of my top casters for the KHADOR faction. You can play her aggressively or you can play her defensively. So she is a perfect caster for people just starting off a KHADOR army. So 5 topics will be covered in this video. So let's kick off with number 1, shall we? Let's take a look at her stats. She is a 6 focus caster, which isn't too bad for KHADOR. She has a speed of 6, her strength is 6, her mat is 7, she has a rat of 5, defense 16, armor 15, and a command of 8. The stats that stand out to me are her speed, her mat, and her defense. I'll get to why her speed and defense are good in her spell list, but her mat is quite respectable. With mat 7, you're going to hit most troops, but the thing with Sorcerer is you'll always want to boost to hit due to her weapon, Frostfang, which makes her very, very scary. Because if you roll a critical, meaning a double with a successful hit, the target model that is hit becomes stationary for 1 turn, unless they're immune to cold. But just think about that. Whatever you hit becomes stationary. That is just pure filth. Imagine that, hitting a Warcaster and making them stationary and not needing to roll to hit and just rolling straight damage. Imagine a jack coming up and hitting a caster without rolling to hit. That is very, very scary, guys. Anyway, with this being said, let's move on to topic 2, which is her spell list. Now her first spell is Boundless Charge, and is probably one of my favourite spells for the whole KHADOR faction. This spell costs 2 focus to do and has a range of 6 inches, so make sure that you are within range on the model that you're casting it on. The spell can be cast on a friendly faction model and will grant this model an extra 2 movement and Pathfinder only when they're charging, and this lasts for 1 round. So let's see this in action, shall we? Here we have a Spriggan, a very powerful KHADOR jack, and SORSCHA is just going to cast Boundless Charge on it. Now, with the Spriggan, we are going to declare a charge on the AXA. We spend the 1 focus to declare the charge. So the Spriggan's normal movement is 4 inches. We'll add 3 inches for charging, and then we'll add the extra 2 movement from Boundless Charge. So overall, he can charge for 9 inches. And with those 9 inches, he charges straight into the AXA. Boundless Charge is a very useful spell for KHADOR warjacks, guys. When you think about it, KHADOR warjacks only have a speed of 4, so adding that extra 2 movement can be very key when declaring a charge on your opponent. Also to remember, guys, you can cast this on SORSCHA, so think about that when you're trying to assassinate the other person's Warcaster. With that being said, let's move on to spell 2, which is Cyclone, and this costs 2 focus to do, and this spell is only for SORSCHA, so it's a self spell, guys. So basically, this spell allows you to move SORSCHA a full advance of her speed, which is 6 inches, guys, and it also allows you not to be targeted by free strikes. And get this, at the end of this movement, she can make 1 melee attack against each line of sight model in her melee range, which is 2 inches, guys. Let's see how this can work. Here we have SORSCHA in combat with an Impaler. She then casts Cyclone for 2. So we'll move SORSCHA out of combat range of the Impaler, but also in combat range of the Whelps. Now we have ended her move, she can make an attack on 1, 2 Whelps, and also the Impaler, due to still being in her line of sight, which is her front arc. Guys, this spell is very useful for doing little things like this, or escaping a combat that you don't want your Warcaster to be in. Because after you've cast Cyclone, you can do a normal movement action. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk about spell 3, which is Freezing Grip. This costs 4 focus to cast, but it is very, very powerful. But it's also a very useful spell as well. The spell targets a model or a unit, and if it hits successfully, they become stationary for 1 round, unless they're immune to cold. You'll have to be 8 inches within the target model or unit to cast this, but think about how many things you can do with cutting off a person's special unit for 1 round. It is a very focus-heavy spell, but it is quite useful, especially when you're thinking about going for an assassination. Okay, moving on to spell 4, guys. This is Iron Flesh, a spell that most Warcasters in the KHADOR faction have. The spell costs 2 to cast, and it grants a target-friendly model/unit 3 extra defense points, and the downside to this, they suffer 1 speed, a -1 speed. Now this spell is mainly used on SORSCHA to get her defense up to 19, which is very, very hard to hit. But mainly you'll see this cast on units like the Winter Guard and also the Kyazi Assassins to get their defense right up there in the high teens. Now guys, I will tell you, you always need to take Winter Guard with Epic SORSCHA, but that's coming later. So let's move straight into spell 5, which is Razorwind. Again, like Iron Flesh, this is a spell that most KHADOR Warcasters have. This spell costs 2 to do, and it has a range of 10. And if you hit successfully, the target model will take a power 12 damage roll. You'll never really use this spell unless you have to take out a pesky solo. It's a good spell, but trust me, you'll never need to cast this. But moving on to our final spell, guys, which is spell 6, Shatter Storm. Now this spell costs 2 focus to do, and you'll cast this on a ranged unit. So for example, you could cast it on the Widowmakers or the Winter Guard. Now basically the spell says, when a target friendly faction model / unit directly hits and kills an enemy model with a ranged or a melee attack, place an AoE 3 on that destroyed model, and the models under that AoE take an unboostable power 8 damage roll. Now think about casting this spell, say, on a Winter Guard unit and doing combined range on a few, say, units. You can then do more damage around that unit. I would recommend casting this spell if you're going against an army list which is very heavy on the infantry. But moving away from SORSCHA'S spells, we'll move to her abilities and her feat. So epic SORSCHA'S abilities are so good, guys, because they all involve Winter Guard units. So let's take a look at some of them, shall we? One of her abilities is called Desperate Pace, which is a star action, so you'll have to spend one focus to do this, but trust me, you'll be doing this quite a bit. You can cast this Desperate Pace within SORSCHA'S command range, which is of 8 inches, and basically this target Winter Guard unit will gain a +2 movement during its activation. So let's take a look at the Winter Guard, shall we? So they have a speed of 6, and then you'll add another 2 to that movement. So if we ran the Winter Guard, for example, they would move up 12 because of the run, and then you'll add that extra 2. So that's 14 inches, guys, that they'll run up the board, especially when you're playing against competitors who are very slow moving. This is very, very useful. Or, for example, get into an objective marker quite quickly. Another one of her abilities is Elite Cadre, which is by far the best thing she brings to her army list if you take Winter Guard units, guys. This ability gives friendly Winter Guard models combined arms. Yes, that's right, combined arms. This ability is amazing. Basically, models making a combined range attack that miss their to hit roll, they can re-roll that attack roll. So each attack roll can only be rolled once, guys, but that's still very amazing when you think if you have 2 units of Winter Guard. Just amazing. And now the final ability, guys, which is the Bond. Now you can bond a warjack to her, guys, from her battle group. Like most bonds, guys, you can allocate 4 focus to this jack for being bonded to the Warcaster, but this bond is a little bit special. If a enemy model ends its activation within 2 inches of this bonded jack, that model becomes stationary for 1 turn, unless it's immune to cold, which is very, very nasty, guys. Trust me, if you want to watch any of my battle reports, you see me constantly taking a Kodiak and bonding it to SORSCHA. Very, very useful. So okay, there are her abilities, and then let's look at her weapons quickly before we move on to her feat. SORSCHA has a little hand cannon, which is called Quad Iron, which has a range of 10, a rate of fire 1, and it is a power 10 gun. But with 1 focus, you can use its ability, which is a star action, guys, which is called Multi-Fire. So basically, guys, when you make an attack with this weapon, on a hit, after resolving this attack, this model can make an additional attack with this weapon, targeting the last model hit or another model within 2 inches of the last model hit. You ignore the rate of fire, guys, but this model, which is SORSCHA, can make up to 4 attacks during this activation as a result of multi-fire, which is quite useful if you have a dangerous unit closing in on your caster. With that being said, guys, let's move on to her magical weapon. That's right, her big ass axe, which is called Frostfang. Now this is a magical weapon with reach, so it's got a 2-inch melee range, guys. This is a power 7 and a PS 13, so power and strength 13. But on a critical hit, guys, the model becomes stationary. I already explained this. This is very powerful, unless they're immune to cold. But trust me, having stationary models is always good. Now, with the weapons done, let's move on to her feat, which is called Winter's Chill. This, by far, is one of my favourite feats, because it is just unbelievably powerful. To see this in action, why don't you click the screen right now to view the battle report where you see this feat in full effect. Hopefully you've watched that battle report or you've already seen it, but I'll explain the feat to you guys. Any damage that is over the armor value is doubled. Now this can only happen in SORSCHA'S control area, which is 12 inches. But guys, trust me, this is a very dangerous feat. I'm just going to show a clip from that battle report of what I actually do with this feat. Then the Kodiak is it within 5 inches, so it charges the Slayer. So I boost to hit, which again I do get. It ends up doing 16 points of damage to column 4. Then with the second attack needing 9s, I hit again and end up doing a whopping 22 points of damage, wrecking the Slayer and ending my turn. That's right, KHADOR turn 3. What an eventful turn that is. See what I mean, guys? It is pure filth. It is unbelievable. So okay, with that said, that is epic SORSCHA, guys. Now let's have an overview of her, shall we? She's got decent stats, she has an amazing spell list, and she's a must-have if you have Winter Guard units, or models with her ability, basically, to make them better. And her feat, well, her feat's just pure filth. So guys, my rating of this caster is 10 out of 10, due to everything that I've said. But what do you guys think? Why don't you comment below? Tell us your thoughts about this caster and your ratings. It'll be great to hear from the community what you guys think. And guys, I hope that this video has helped you out there if you're wanting a new Warcaster or you're just starting off an army in KHADOR and wanting to change your army up a bit. Now guys, remember to like this video. It's always appreciated, and especially if you've enjoyed learning some bits about the KHADOR army, I would much appreciate a like. And remember, don't forget to comment your thoughts below, and right now on the screen, if you've enjoyed this content, why don't you click subscribe, and through that you can look at all my other content, all my other battle reports and all the other stuff that I do on this channel. So tune in next time guys, where I'll discuss another model or a unit. It could be a Warcaster, it could be a solo, or it could be a unit, here on KHADOR Tactics. On the Bleep Up Podcast YouTube channel. Until next time guys, take care and have a good one, and oh yeah, happy wargaming.